because you lay here. So today's another cold and windy day outside, so I decided to make another design video. I'll jump right into it. This is the space I will be designing today. This is a very small backyard, kind of a Brooklyn style backyard, postage stamp. They do have an existing patio with a retaining wall, which are really pretty and provides a lot of interest to the space. But they also face a number of challenges. So they're right next to this town parking lot. There's a lot of stuff going on, like these wires in the background over there, the new building that's coming up over there, and the neighbors. They did have a landscaper come over last year who planted this birch that is a dwarf and will actually never get to the size to cover up this area. So that was kind of agenda number one. Another thing that they asked me to do is provide some interest over here right next to the fence, and maybe something over here because they do have neighbors kind of looking into them. So let's see what we can do in this tiny space. So the first thing I want to address is this corner with the birch with not so pretty views in the background, and there are multiple species of trees that we can select to cover it up, and the homeowners did express that they want more natives in their garden. So a serviceberry, for example, will be a good choice for this space. It is small enough that it can fit in the space, but big enough that it can cover up that view in the background. Another option would be something like a redbud or a dogwood, but they do have a pretty sunny location here. Our native dogwoods prefer a little bit more shade, so I think serviceberry it is. By the way, if you hear a noise in the background, I apologize. It's our neighbors. Their landscaping company started a cleanup and they're using very loud gas leaf blowers. So anyway, we're just going to go with it. But the second thing that I want to address here is the area right next to the fence where they could see their neighbors. And I think something like a witch hazel will be a really pretty tree to include in that area. Witch hazels are so beautiful. They bloom so early in the season, could start blooming as early as January, and they go all the way almost until May because the weather is so cool. The flowers stay on for the longest time. There are many different varieties of witch hazels. And when you pick one, make sure that you select one that fits in the space because they could be anywhere from 5 feet tall to 12 or 15 feet tall. They're quite shade tolerant, and they also have an amazing fall color. I do have a witch hazel myself, amethyst, which has a beautiful purple flowers that are blooming right now. So I think witch hazel will be really, really good in this area, and they are going to remove those yews on bottom there. So I'm pretty happy with this base layer right here. Another thing that I want to include here is an evergreen of some sort. And because they are removing these yews on the bottom that are prostrate yews, I think something like mountain laurel will be amazing in this spot. And I'm showing here the spring view. I can actually switch this to summer. Yeah, let's do summer for now. And mountain laurels are amazing. They're evergreen, they're broadleaf evergreen. They bloom beautifully in the spring. They're native, they're deer resistant. It's not like they have deer in this spot, but it's just good to know. They are very slow to start and they're kind of hard to establish. So you have to baby them for the first 5 years, but if they establish, they grow really, really well. So I think I'm going to include one right there to cover up the fence a little bit. And this space for the garden is kind of misleading here. It's actually wider than it looks. It's about 9 feet, so we can layer up a lot of different plants. The next layer I want to go with are some perennials. And there's so many different perennials that we can plant in the space, but I think I'm going to go with the few that are taller, because a lot of times what we tend to do is just jump from these taller plants to kind of shortish on the bottom. But I like those step downs. It looks a lot more interesting this way. So one of the perennials that I would like to include is a Solomon seal, which is about 3.5 feet tall. So we can do a Solomon seal here. And another one is Actea, or Simicifuga, which is a really cool looking plant, has beautiful foliage, and the flowers are fragrant as well. So I think I'm just going to kind of dot them all around this space. So we have that height that is not going drastically from taller shrubs to a really short perennials. Another thing I'm going to do here is add a lot of diversity. Normally in plantings, the rule is to plant in drifts. Just a side note, there are no rules in gardening. There are only guidelines. You can do whatever you want in your garden, whatever pleases you. And my personal kind of style is more scattered planting rather than very static drift planting, which also can be really beautiful. But I think in this space, like a dotted plants will be looking really natural. So I'm going to dot some wild geraniums here as well. So I'll put maybe 3 here, which is kind of considered a drift. Maybe a castaway here and another here. There's one perennial that I want to include. This is not a native, but I absolutely love it. It's Helleborus. They are starting to bloom right now. They are such great plants. They bloom so early in the season, and I will just dot them kind of all around here. And because this garden is so small, we would like to include some more of the evergreen interest, early spring interest, summer, and the fall. And this is also kind of a challenging space because half of it is very sunny and half of it becomes shady. So there are some plants that can tolerate both of these conditions. Helleborus are actually can take quite a bit of sun, especially in colder climates. I know I'm packing these plants really tightly, but I do like to plant my plantings very densely because that creates a very competitive environment so the weeds don't come in and start to proliferate. And also it looks a lot prettier. Now, another plant that I want to include here that will do really well on kind of like the shadier side of this planting is a fern. My favorite fern that is native is maidenhair fern, which is absolutely beautiful. But because I do want to have a little bit more of evergreen interest here, I think Christmas fern will be just beautiful to have in this space. So I can dot some all over here. You can tuck them in everywhere. I can also tuck in a lot of spring ephemerals here, like the trilliums, uvularia, or mertensia. That bloom for a period of time and then they disappear and the other foliage of other perennials kind of take over. So I'm going to find some trilliums here. Now I want to add some more perennials on the sunny side right here, right next to the serviceberry, but I don't want to cover that beautiful multi-stem trunk. So I think what I'm going to go with are some echinaceas because they do have a little bit of a see-through quality to them, like that. So you have those flowers kind of pop up, but you can see the trunk, just like this. Other beautiful perennials that have that are Gora or Verbena. that have that see-through kind of quality to them, which I love. And I usually tweak some things. So I'm going to move some things around so they look a lot more natural. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with it. Let's check what it looks like in the spring. So we have our beautiful serviceberry blooming, as well as the mountain laurel, and the perennials are starting to come in. We do have some helleborus blooming as well. In the summer, we have the echinaceas, the wild geraniums, the actaea starting to bloom, and of course all of the ferns and the Solomon seal adding a lot of texture. In the fall, serviceberries have amazing fall color, and so is the witch hazel. Wild geraniums have also very beautiful fall color. And in the winter, we have the witch hazel blooming, we have the Christmas fern, and the helleborus are evergreen as well. And the serviceberry is providing that beautiful structure in the winter as well. So I think I am pretty happy with it. I'm going to save it. And the small space like this can be designed many different ways, but my philosophy is to go with the site. Right, so we have a lot of sun on one side, more shade on the other side, so that already filters your choice of plants. And then you go with the dimensions. We have a pretty tight space, so that also narrows down your selection. For example, I would love to have a white oak maybe here, but it is too big for the space. And then you just go with what you like, the colors and the textures. You can do drifts. You can do this beautiful kind of more wildish interplanting. Make sure that you have some interest all year round in the space. As small as this, it can be difficult, but if you select some plants that are very ornamental, like the echinaceas bloom for a very long time, helleborus are evergreen and also bloom very early and for a very long time as well, and so is the witch hazel. They can bloom up to 5 months, so you have that long season interest in this space. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and learned something new, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.